What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Guitar Slinger Hockey channel. The video I'm going to be doing for you today is the best ever hockey stick for adult rec hockey players, apparently. So this video is kind of an observational and one that I didn't expect to be making, but it is something that I noticed, and I think that those of you who are playing adult rec hockey might be able to get some information out of this one. So I'll go into that, but first I wanted to say thank you for those of you who weighed in on my question, the poll that I took about how I can make my videos better. And so this video will be my first attempt at increasing the quality of this channel by adding some timestamps in the description so you can click on the parts that you want to view, as well as providing you an agenda up front. So for those of you who weighed in on that, I really appreciated the detailed responses, and I thought they were very well thought out, and I appreciate it. So with that said, let's get into the agenda, and we will start talking about this. Okay, so first off, I'll get into the intro, then we'll talk about the sticks that were tested, the curves that were tested. I'll talk about the scenario-based observations that kind of got me thinking about making this video, and then I will provide you with a conclusion as well as a recommendation at the end. So regarding the intro, basically what comes to my mind is, for those of you who don't know, I do a lot of coaching of adult rec players. I coach them at individual skills development as well as entire teams. Like, for example, I coach my wife's team that she plays on. And, there's a lot of players her team is primarily made up of novice to intermediate level players. And so I definitely coach the wide spectrum of newer players. Obviously, the folks that are advanced don't really care anymore about being coached, which is, obvious, the kind of a normal assumption that one might make. But one of the things that I do when I help coach them is I will bring out usually a bushel full of my sticks that I have laying around and just let people mess around with things and test stuff. In addition to that, when I'm playing my own games, which, I play with some folks that are really high-level players, or at least I should say they used to be. Now we're just old and fat. But I will also, anytime I get a new cool stick, I will let them try it out, and they'll let me try whatever they're using. And all of a sudden, what I'm starting to see is I'm starting to see consistencies develop between, what I'm letting these novice players try out and their feedback that they're giving to me, as well as what these advanced players are providing as feedback for the same sticks. And I've been kind of finding it to be interesting, and there's never going to be like one stick that is amazing for everybody. That just doesn't work that way. And even if there was, this is just a stamp in time, right? Because, a year from now, there's probably going to be a better stick that's out than anything I'm going to show you in this video. But anyways, something started to develop. I was getting, there's really two mentalities that I see in the recreational hockey world when it comes to adults. With regard to more novice players, they have the feeling of they don't deserve good equipment, whether it's sticks, skates, whatever, because they're quote-unquote not good enough. And you can't see it, but I'm giving air quotes right now. I'm not good enough, therefore I don't deserve this high-end $400 stick or whatever. And then you have the guys that are good players that are older now, they're just playing rec, that are like, dude, it doesn't matter, whatever. And then you have, like, if you want to kind of step outside and think about the pro players, they have a completely different way they look at their sticks for the most part. It seems to be pretty consistent from my experience. And in this video, I'm going to show a kind of a quick snippet of how Connor Bedard talks about his own stick. And it was a pretty direct question by the interviewer that, and the response by Connor was like, terrible, in my opinion. It offered no help whatsoever, but I thought it was actually pretty telling because, that guy is the upcoming superstar, supposedly. He's playing for the Regina Pats right now in the Western Hockey League, and, he's his response was cracking me up because that is the response that I typically hear from total like top end elite players that are kind of coming up through the system. And I have a feeling that I understand why, but I'll play that. I'll play that clip for you guys. But anyway, so that's really what it is. The novice players are like, I don't really deserve something good because I can't tell the difference, and so why bother getting a $400 stick? The guys that are really good that don't play anywhere high level anymore, they're just like, I don't care, whatever. I can use anything. And then, but that's not what I'm seeing when I get on the ice and I'm actually putting the sticks in people's hands. So I think first off, as part of this intro, I'm going to show the clip of Connor Bedard, and you'll have to excuse the footage. It's like really crappy footage, but it's more the audio that I want you guys to listen to. So let me play that, and then we'll talk about it.
Hey Connor, it's Frankie Corrado here. We were just talking about your shot and some of the similarities to Austin Matthews. Like, how much time and energy do you put into your stick? Like the specs, the flex, the curve, the kick point, all that kind of stuff?
I don't know. I mean, I've been using the same thing for a while, and it's what I like, so don't have to worry about it too much now, which is nice.
Okay, so when I first heard that, I was like cracking up because, like I said before, there was no information provided whatsoever. And so I think that the way Connor talks about it, though, is actually pretty consistent to what I've heard other former NHLers say. Some of them are obviously picky, but like, he didn't really say anything of use. And, my understanding from having been around the Canadian Hockey League, the Western Hockey League specifically, a lot of the times they obviously get their, sticks, their equipment, all that good stuff. And now I don't know if it's still like this. It seemed to be when I went the last hockey game I went to a couple of weeks ago before filming this video. But CCM is the sponsor. So basically you have the choice, do you want a Super Tax, a Jet Speed, or a Trigger stick? And then I think you get the choice of 3 curves, possibly 2. You get a P29, a P28, and maybe a Pro Drury, the heel curve. Those are the last ones I was, I'm sure somebody who is affiliated with the league can weigh in the comments, but last time I checked, you get to choose a CCM stick, and so there aren't a whole lot of options. And I think pretty much everything is 85, 95 flex, 105 flex, that kind of deal. So he probably just picked one out of the bin when he was a younger player and has been sticking with that for a while. And that's usually where it comes from. He's just getting 3 choices, and there you go. Go have at it. So that's what I think is happening in his case right there, but it is consistent. I don't really think you get the choice to really tweak your stick until you get way higher up in the pros. But I'm not a pro player, so I don't know that for sure. Somebody else can comment on it. But anyways, I digress. But I wanted to share that with you because that's kind of how pro players look at their sticks, which is why it's not a great idea to compare elite level hockey players and their opinions on equipment at all, because it's just not the same. Okay, so let's talk about the sticks that were used in testing. So these are typically the sticks that I bring when I want to allow people to try some sticks and try some different things, different kick points, curves, that sort of thing. So working our way from the right to the left, the blue stick there is a Jet Speed FT5 Pro. It's a 75 flex with a P90 TM curve on it. Then we have the Vapor Hyperlight and a 70 flex with a P92. Then we have the Nexus Geo to the left of it there, also in 70 flex, P92. Then we have the AS4 Pro Super Tax. That is 75 flex in a P29 curve. Then we have the AS5 Pro Super Tax in a 75 flex with a P90 TM curve on it. I will be doing a review on that stick very shortly. I now have logged enough hours to give you some feedback on it, so look for that. And then finally, the stick on the left is a bottom of the barrel CCM tax of some kind. It's 75 flex and also a P29 curve. That is a really good stick to bring out because it shows what it's truly like to use the lowest end stick that you can possibly buy. And that's why I bring it out, even though it's like, not exactly a high performing stick. So anyways, those are the sticks that I bring out and let people try, whether they're novice or they're more of my advanced buddies who play. So let's take a look at the curves. Okay, so just for example, we're using the 75 Flex P90TM. I guess you don't care about the Flex, but anyways, P90TM is one of the key curves that I'll let folks try, along with the P29 in the middle and the P92 on the far left. If you've watched my other video on whether or not the P29 and the P92 are the same curve, they are in fact not the same curve at all. In fact, they also do shoot differently if you try them right next to each other. But go back and look at my video on that one if you're more curious on it. Anyways, these are the curves that I let people try. Taking a minute here to look at the forehands of each of the curves. On the far right, we're looking at the P90TM. In the middle, the P29, and on the far left, the P92. And if you look closely, you should be able to see some height differences on the blades there, especially between the P29 and the P92, supposedly being the same curve, air quotes. And then we'll take a quick look at a top-down of the curves too. Okay, so this shot is always hard to take, but I'll just say that the main difference here on the far right with the P90TM is just that it's got a little bit more of a toe kink than the other two curves have. So that'll actually kind of play back into what I noticed in the testing. But anyways, that's what they look like from the top down. Let's go back and start talking about what we observed on the ice. Okay, from a scenario situation here, what was happening is I was letting these novice players go through all of these sticks in warm-up, and then they could use whatever they wanted during the game. They could switch up the sticks to kind of feel things out. And so what was happening in the warm-ups is that players were gravitating towards the P29 curve on the CCM SuperTac stick. They really liked that curve, but they weren't identifying with the SuperTac stick itself. They liked the curve, but not the stick, if that makes sense. They said that they were really able to rifle the shot. It felt good. They had control over their passing. That sort of thing. But they weren't really, they were struggling with the SuperTacs for whatever reason. They then got a hold of the Vapor Stick, and they were able to shoot better with it, but they weren't really liking how the blade felt, and for some reason. And then they got over to the Nexus, and they liked how the blade felt on that one, but they were having a hard time shooting the puck. Things like that. They were just like, they couldn't get the power that they were getting out of the CCM P29 curve. And at this point, I'm not really sure of why that's happening or what's going on. They then get to the AS5 Pro with the P90TM on it, and they're like, well, the shot power feels okay, the puck handling feels okay, but it's not like shooting like the Hyperlight, the Vapor Stick. It's not shooting like the CCM with the P29 on it. But they were like, they're kind of like lukewarm about it is the best way I can say it. Gave them the jet speed. They liked they seemed to have good shot control with it, but they were like kind of lukewarm on the blade, and that also has a P90TM on it. And then all of them got a hold of the entry-level SuperTac stick and hated it. It was pretty interesting to see that. So a lot of them kind of gravitated towards the AS4 Pro SuperTacs because of that P29 blade. And so once I gave it to them and said, all right, well, go play your game, see how you do with it. And so what happened is they ended up really struggling with the pinginess, the bounciness of the blade on that. They were having a hard time picking up passes, and so it really directly related to them not being able to get any shots off because they couldn't control the puck. It was just too hot for them. And that is a thing. Some people are pretty sensitive to pingy blades. Some people like more dampened blades, and I've tend to think that more of a novice player could do better with a more dampened feel. So giving them the Vapor Hyperlight as well as the Nexus Geo, what was happening there is the lie was so high on the P92 curve that they were missing passes when people would pass pucks to them. It was going underneath the toe, because you got to remember that more novice players don't have the technical skill required to properly roll the blade over and create a nice cushion for it and receive the pass. They just don't have that built into their muscle memory yet. So they do need a little help. However, when the puck was on their blade and they were stick handling, they all said that they felt pretty good about it. And then the ones that were able to get shots off with the Nexus and with the Vapor tended to like the Vapor a little bit better. And then putting them out on the ice with the, actually no one wanted to try the AS5 Pro Super Tax with the P90TM. For whatever reason, no one wanted to try that. And then they went out there with the JetSpeed FT5 Pro with the P90TM curve on it. And I started to notice that every one of them who was using that stick plus that curve was night and day difference in puck feel, puck control, shot power, shot accuracy, and to the point where all of them were talking about it, and they were switching the sticks up between a number of them during the actual game. And they were, two of the four of them that used it that night got goals, and they are not known for their goal scoring prowess, shall we say. And so they were, and for if you don't know, the JetSpeed FT5 Pro is considered to be a hybrid kick point, just kind of similar to a Nexus, even though I don't feel like they shoot the same. But anyways, the JetSpeed was hands down what those novice players liked. And so I noticed that, and so that's kind of where my mind is at, was like, okay, I'm paying attention to that. And then the P90TM curve, which they were kind of lukewarm about, all of a sudden, because the fact that it has a Live 5 blade on it and it still shoots pretty similar to a P29, it made a lot more sense when there were, you're just kind of resolved to using gross motor skills. That worked a lot better for the novice players than did the P29 or the High Lie and the P92. And caveat for this, if you could find a P92 with a Live 5 like they used to make back in the day, that would probably work just fine as well. But they were very sensitive to the lie on the sticks and the curve, so that's something to take into consideration. Also, when I went to my own drop-ins and played at the advanced level, I provided some of these sticks over to my buddies, and those folks really liked the Super Tax, and that was their first choice, followed by the JetSpeed. So those guys pretty much had an affinity towards the P29 curve. They weren't a fan of the P90TM, and they liked the mid kick point on the Super Tax more than the JetSpeed, but they liked the JetSpeed more than the Geo or the Vapor. So that's kind of leading me towards my conclusion and my recommendation for you guys. So it was just an all around, it seemed to be a pretty interesting thing that I wasn't really expecting. But anyways, let's get into the conclusion recommendation. Okay, here we are. You made it to the end. If you've made it this far in the video, I definitely appreciate your time. And I am actively trying to grow the channel, so if you like what you saw, please give me a like and subscribe, and keep pumping out the content. In fact, I got some pretty cool stuff coming up in the next month or so keep watching the channel. Anyways, conclusion and recommendation. If you haven't guessed by now, I'm going to say JetSpeed FT5 Pro, specifically with the P90TM curve, is going to be the one you're going to want to go with if you are more of a novice player. It was pretty clear that almost all of the players on my wife's team who tried this stick out, it was hands down the one that everybody wanted for game scenarios. And it's important that you remember that too. Sticks can shoot really nice off the shooting mat in the hockey shop. It can shoot really nice when you're at a stick and puck just standing there. But in a game situation, sticks perform much different. And so when it really came down to it, the JetSpeed with the P90TM curve is what performed for the vast majority of these novice players. And many of these players, are the same people that said, "Oh, I can't tell the difference." But as soon as they picked up that bottom of the, basement model CCM tax that you're seeing on the far left over there, they immediately saw the difference, and it wasn't just weight. It was shot performance, puck control, all of that stuff. In fact, 4 of the players that tried out the stick went out and immediately bought those sticks after getting a chance to try them in the game. So it says something. On the other hand, the advanced players that got a chance to try all these sticks out, easily the number one choice was the CCM AS5 Pro Super Tax, although none of them preferred the P90TM. They all said that they really liked that stick the best, but they wanted a P29 or a P28 depending on what type of curve they use. None of them really liked the P90TM, but the AS5 Pro Super Tax clearly destroyed the competition in their mind. They consistently, by the way, the Bauer Nexus Geo, all of them had problems with the stick rolling in their hands. Like I've had that happen in the past, and it usually happens after you get sweaty and your gloves get sweaty. Your lower hand has a real hard time gripping on that 5th side of the stick, and so that is something to keep in mind. But anyways, Super Tax won the day, and here's why I think the opinions are different. So, first of all, at least in this generation of hockey sticks, CCM really is putting out the best performing stuff. Bauer might have the edge on durability, like I've said in the past, but right now, from a performance standpoint, CCM just is kind of ruling it. But anyways, with regard to why maybe a novice player likes the JetSpeed and why an advanced player likes the Super Tax, I think it's some just technique. I think it's all there is to it. Somebody like me who is really knows how to load my shots and has a pretty heavy wrist shot, really going to get the benefit out of a Super Tax or just a mid-kick stick in general. Whereas if you don't know how to load the stick, or it's not even, if it's just simply not your type of shot, you're not going to really understand why the Super Tax releases the puck slow. You're going to be somebody who probably has a little bit of an easier time with a different kick point. So I think that's why the advanced players like it, because they all have the proper technique where they can load the mid-kick sticks, they can load the hybrids, they can load the low kick point sticks. It just doesn't matter to them. And I'm the same way. I can shoot all 3 of them. I know how to load all 3 of them. I just prefer the mid-kick point of the Super Tax. With regard to the novice players, they're struggling with that proper technique for obvious reasons because they're novice, and there's nothing wrong with that. It just is what it is. And if you remember earlier in the video, in addition to the JetSpeed, they liked the feel of the Vapor Hyperlight. And there's 2 things going on with that one. One, I think it's the 70 flex versus 77. It's a little easier to flex. But the reality is it doesn't take too much effort to snap a puck with the Vapor stick. Is it going to be nearly as good or as hard as something that from one of the CCM models? No, it's not. But, for a novice player, that's a pretty good stick. And a lot of them liked it. The problem that they had was just that they were going to have a real hard time finding a curve that was going to work for them. Because P92, great curve, the lie is too high for those novice players. And then you look at something with a lower lie, like a W88 or P88, I should say, the cane curve, and it doesn't have the same power. And so they kind of a rock on a hard place there. And of course, no one wants to go get custom sticks because why? So that's where it came down to. And the jet speed, you know, you can release that like a low kick point stick. You can release it like a, you know, take big slap shots with it if you want. It just doesn't require that same level of expertise that something like the Super Tax does, or, you know, you name it on the other mid kick line. So anyways, that's what it came down to. So if you're a novice hockey player or intermediate, or just don't have your technique dialed in yet, and you don't, you know, you don't want to mess around and you want a high-end stick, go with a JetSpeed FT5 Pro and get yourself a P90 TM curve. And I think you'll really enjoy yourself. It's got everything that you'll need, and it performs in the game for you. So with that said, I'm going to end the video here. I appreciate everybody taking the time to listen. Feel free to reach out and let me know if you have any questions and follow-on questions, and we will see you again in the next video. Peace.